Welcome, everyone. I want to talk a little bit about the workshop goals. So, the workshop is designed this time with writing center specialists and writing educators in mind. So, the primary audience are you are the primary audience, the writing center specialists and language and writing educators. However, it's also useful and open to all of the rest of you. The reason I'm just giving you the context is you might wonder why I'm having you do certain activities that you might not normally do. What they will help you do is learn how to really think about the needs of potential writing group members and how to potentially, how to think through different ways of putting a writing group together, a peer writing group. Also, we're using the term peer writing group, but some of them might not only have peers. So I'll talk about that as well. So basically, our goals for tonight are to evaluate some structures for peer writing groups and to assess some practices for maintaining successful long-term peer writing groups, and to practice feedback strategies in writing group settings, and to apply tools for fostering writing and revision in writing group settings. So it looks like several of you have participated in workshopping where you're mostly focusing on like people bring a draft. This is done a lot of times with creative writing, when people are working on poetry or novels or short stories or works of fiction or even literary nonfiction. There's you bring your draft to the workshop and people comment on it and give feedback. There are many other kinds of writing groups, and the hybrid kind of combines that feedback with quiet writing. One of the nice things about these kinds of writing group, in any writing group, is that sort of it maintains momentum, because writing can be very intimidating. And it's not always about whether I'm writing well or not well. Sometimes the intimidation is from, I don't have an idea, or I have too many ideas, and I need to find a way to focus on one. So there's many different reasons. And so there are several qualities that are successful. It helps to have a shared purpose. If the group doesn't have a shared reason for being there, then it can't coalesce, it can't come together. So sometimes that shared purpose is in coming in from the same discipline. Other times people might be in from multiple disciplines, but they have a shared purpose, say, of completing an article or of just writing accountability or something. So the purpose is the why. Why are we doing this? What is this writing group for? And the purpose really determines the best approach to take. So you want to make sure that purpose is aligned with everyone in the group. You also need very clearly articulated goals, of course, because again, if the goals aren't shared, then there isn't that cohesiveness that you need, right? So in the goal, that's the what. What do we want to accomplish? Is there a single goal for the group? For instance, everyone in the group, like I said, is producing a manuscript for publication in a scholarly journal. Or are there individual goals for each member? So, they're working on different projects, but there's still, that still falls within the shared purpose of working quietly on their writing. So again, as long as everyone's in alignment, then it should work. You also want a balance of structure and flexibility. I'm sure you've all found that if something is completely unstructured, it can be hard to know what to do with that time if you don't have any sense of structure. For instance, sometimes I'll schedule a 4-hour block of time to work on projects. But if I don't have a sense, and this isn't for a writing group, I'm just talking about unstructured time. But if I don't know exactly what projects I want to work on, I might bounce among them and not be able to focus on any one. So I have to also have enough structure that I know what I'm going to do with that time. And then flexibility is also important. Writing groups, at least from my experience, and so I'm just speaking from my experience, but I found that writing groups should be safe places, and no one should ever feel shame in a writing group, because a lot of doubt, a lot of self-doubt can come up. A lot of, like Jenya, when you were sharing about when you are doing something for the first time and it's brand new, everyone is doubtful. So you have to also feel free to ask questions and to say, I don't know. I'm very insecure. I feel very insecure about this, but I'm going to do it anyway. When you have that safety and that flexibility, and you know that you're not going to be shamed, that can be very important. And another aspect of flexibility is life does happen. So, if you get into a car accident on the way, to your office or home where you want to set up and get online for an online writing group and you can't make it, you're not being, kicked out of the group for something that you can't control. So, and then flexibility if you want to shift what you're focusing on that day and it still aligns with the overall purpose, that's okay. I think it's so important that we have all of these things. So I kind of flipped, here's the environment of trust and safety that I found is absolutely essential. I have heard horror stories of those sort of workshopy groups that where people attack each other. And that's not okay. It's not okay. If everyone is in agreement and they want that kind of really aggressive feedback, and then that's different. But everyone has to know exactly what's going to happen, and they have to be in agreement. There can't be a power differential. Everyone has to be on an equal footing. And so that creates that supportive community. And the supportive community is what helps us get through. It gives us that sense of I'm not doing this alone, even though part of writing is alone, but part of it's very collaborative. You also can get feedback. And even in focused writing groups, right at the beginning, when you're sharing your goal for that hour or so, you can ask questions of each other. And that sometimes you'll just write, you might leave your cameras on if you're on Zoom. That creates that sense of support. And if you're in person, of course, that does too. All right. So the final thing is commitment, that there is at least a core number, the heart of the group, usually about 3 or 4 people who consistently participate. They can't always, because again, sometimes things come up, but overall, they consistently participate. These are the elements that are required for a really successful, sustainable writing group. The most important is that shared purpose. If you don't have that shared purpose, along with that engaged collaboration and commitment, you are going to lose the heart of the group, the ability for it to sustain itself. Engaged collaboration can be everything from quiet writing together to giving each other feedback and blending that. So I just always want to reiterate that shared purpose. That's the most important thing. Okay, so we're going to talk about considerations when deciding on the best format for a peer writing group. And that I'm not sure answer is exactly right. So here are some reminders first of elements for success, facilitated or non-facilitated, various formats. So non-facilitated might be when several of you get together and you just say, okay, we're going to write and we'll decide each time what we want to do, or sometimes it can be semi-facilitated where one of the group members, but a different member each time, kind of gets things started. That's fine. That can work really well as long as, again, there's a shared goal and purpose. So facilitated can be where, you as a teacher or as a writing center specialist, expert, or in any other capacity are, kind of pulling the group together and kind of, you're in charge of it, but you're not a lead, you're not telling everyone exactly what to do completely, but you're helping just facilitate the process. You're a point of organization. So there are other things, though, that you have to consider. Settings and timeframes. Right now, sometimes online groups are the most effective simply because it can, people are getting sick in the winter time. It can get really cold and hard to drive in. But sometimes in-person groups are wonderful. If it's very easy, if you're all at the same organization or institution, and there's a room you've got that you can all use, or a nice way to do it could be, say, to maybe reserve a small conference room at, say, a coffee house, or, a place where you can, it's a little less formal and very comfortable. And then there's hybrid, where you can do both online and in person. The main thing that's very important is you want to be able to see the people who are in the room and the people online. So you have to be able to have both of those, or it's not going to work well. It's not effective to have someone speaking to a blank screen, for instance. If someone is on Zoom or whatever, option like Zoom they're using, they have to be able to see the people in the room. And the people in the room have to remember that there are people online. So everyone needs to see each other. And there are ways to do that, and relatively easily. It doesn't have to be a big problem. Sometimes it's just a matter of, if there's no camera in the room, someone sets up their laptop and uses that as the computer for the room. What are the time frames? How long should the session be? And then there are also writing retreats, which are sometimes added. You might add that to the end of a writing group. Say you have a 12-week writing group. You're going to meet once a week for 12 weeks with the goal of producing a draft for submitting to a journal at the end of it. Everyone in the group will have a draft. So at the end of that, maybe there will be a 4-hour retreat, or even a 2-day retreat where the whole group meets together and focuses on very focused writing and final preparation. And it's just kind of a way to bring it all together. So writing retreats can be very helpful too. Who's participating? And again, what is the goal? What is the product that you want to achieve? I'm going to take you on another activity. And this one is going to involve putting us into this sort of group format. And what I'm going to do is some very generative, this is generative work. And we're going to do some guided phased free writing. So quickly, to free write is to write without stopping, to generate ideas quickly without getting in your own way. Because a lot of us, as we know, our little editor brain, our critical brain will get in there and say, did I spell that word right? I can't remember the English word. Oh no. Or this doesn't make sense. Or I don't know what to, So free writing, the point of writing without stopping is to keep that brain, that part of your brain quiet or out of the way. That means that sometimes you might write words or phrases that don't make any sense to you or don't seem to make sense at the time. Doesn't matter. Okay. Whatever comes out, comes out. The other thing with free writing is it works best if you use pencil, pen, and paper, but it's okay to use your computer also. So I've kind of made it computer friendly for us tonight. So I'm going to start with the steps and then I'll go back to the tips for free writing. So for the steps, you want to open a blank document to type in. So you can just open a blank Google Doc or Word doc or whatever right now if you want, or if you prefer, pull up a notebook and a pen. And then together, I'm going to write with you. And this is a strategy you don't have to use, but sometimes this can be a very beneficial strategy, especially when you're working with students, because it equalizes the power differential a little bit so that for a little while you're more of a writer among writers. It doesn't change everything, but it can be helpful for them to see that you do the same, go through the same process as they do. So tips for free writing: don't stop to think, just write. If you get stuck, like your mind goes blank, just repeat the last word or phrase you wrote until new words and phrases start to flow. Do not worry about using complete grammatical sentences unless something just comes out in that way. And switch languages if you can't remember how to write it in English. It's perfectly fine. This is the first pre-writing step. It doesn't matter what language you use. So the first prompt, list all topics that you can think of. So you're just doing a list in relation to your academic and professional work. So anything, even if fudge or kitty cats comes up, just list. So go ahead and we'll start with the 1 minute now. I'm going to start. I'll start and read my list. So I'm in the mix with you. No comments, no feedback. We're just going to read the list and then we're going to go right into prompt 2. So my list is communities, communities of practice, puppies, learning, lifelong learning, teaching and mentoring each other, writing, exploring, shame. All right, prompt number 2. This will be for 2 minutes. Choose one item from your list, copy and paste it below the list. So you're starting a new section, and write without stopping for 2 minutes. So this is a loose paragraph form, but not grammatical. So choose one item from your list that stands out to you. Paste it below and write without stopping on that item. This is a wonderful way, especially if you feel intimidated, to get people started writing, because it's not very long. People lose track of time and they don't have to worry about getting it all right. They will worry about that at first, but it'll get easier and easier. Communities of practice. The moment I heard this term years ago, my ears pricked up. Even if I understand it in my own way, not necessarily as meant by the Etienne Wenger and colleagues. I find the concept valuable. Focus, shared goal, perhaps collaboration. We're going to move on to prompt 2. And I do want to say, even though I really was serious, you do not, you normally, you don't evaluate and you just let people read their lists or their free writes and move on. One of the things that I really wanted to point out was how I am tired after a long day. That can be part of what comes out, like puppies came out in my list. I have no idea why, it just came out. So let your brain take you where it needs to take you. Right. Okay. Last prompt, prompt number 3, 2 minutes again. Highlight a phrase or sentence from your previous free write, paste it below, and write without stopping for 2 minutes. And this is very much a part of brainstorming, free writing. Generally, we think of it's kind of pre-writing, right? We think of it as happening before we get into the more formal drafting. You can do this at any stage. And thank you all very, very much.